knows you knows that.
Oh my God! Don't call me and expect me. Right. Tell me when you're ready. Well, here we are.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So I'm Mickey Cafino, and we're starting our podcast today, Entrepreneurs. And every entrepreneur I bring on the best of the best in their industry. And I'm super honored and very, very lucky and fortunate to get this gentleman to carve out the famous Mark Mcklaskey. He is probably one of the top real estate agents in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the reason I brought Mark in is a lot of people come to me and they said, I've got a passion, I've got a drive, I really want to be a real estate agent. And I said, well, what do you know about it? And they go, well, what do I really need to know about it? And I said, well, there's a lot of things you got to know about it. You got to take a test. And Mark Mcklaskey, I want you, for my audience today, share a little bit about, give a brief history of you before you got into it, your background, because we were sharing before we started, and it was pretty fascinating because you're going to share what you did in radio. So give us a quick 5 minutes of the history of Mark Mcklaskey.
Well, thank you for having me today.
You're so welcome. I don't know if I could pick a better agent to have because you can laugh with me, we can joke with me, and hey.
Hey, well, in real estate, you got to be able to roll with it. That's what I tell people. Roll with it.
You got to have patience, don't you?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
Got to have patience.
Tell my audience a little bit about, before the real estate, what you did.
Well, I couldn't have come from a further away than where I am now. I was a country farm boy in Kansas. I grew up on a cattle ranch.
Hey, we like cows.
Yes, I do too. But I decided that the farm life was not for me. I did not like hauling hay and fixing fence and wrangling up cattle.
Did you ever tip any cattle over at night?
Everybody asks about tipping cows, and I'm telling you that does not happen. It's
a fib.
You can't walk up to a 2,000-pound bovine and push them over.
I'm so depressed. I thought that really happened.
I know. I'm sorry to let everybody down, but that does not happen. You cannot walk up to a cow and push them over. They're going to get mad at you.
You left Kansas.
I left Kansas, moved to Charlotte, and I got out I went to college at Kansas State University, got my broadcast journalism degree because I thought I was.
That's why you're a good communicator.
Well, I thought I was going to be on the news, talking about, reading on the camera, talking, doing that. And they said I had a face for radio, so I decided to get into radio broadcasting. Television was not for me. But anyway, so I did a radio show and sold radio and learned how to do marketing on a local level. And then I got into some national media brokering. So I knew a lot about marketing and that. And then
what radio station did you choose first?
Well, because I was in Kansas, so I was at a country music radio station. But that was in 2000, so country was...
Okay, but when you came to Charlotte?
Came to Charlotte, I was at a CHR station, so a top hits radio.
Okay.
And, but anyway, so I decided to get my real estate license part-time, which is how a lot of people get into real estate.
Start that business.
Yeah, kind of get into it part-time.
So here's one thing that's asked a lot, and this is where I think you're going to be pivotal for all my entrepreneurs that decide to go into this. What does it take to start out in the real estate game?
Well, obviously, you have to take a test and get your license.
Is the test easy?
It's not easy. They do it on purpose to keep you out. Now, and I'm not a smart guy when it comes to testing, and I'm really not. I call it multiple guess, not multiple
choice.
Yeah.
But don't they require a lot of math? Did you tell me?
They do require a lot of math, but once you get into real estate, the only math you need to know is 3 and 6, like how much commission you're going to make, 3% or 6%.
Wait a minute. Is that flexible commission?
It's always negotiable. There's no set.
Up for negotiation.
Everything's negotiable. There's no set fees.
Yes. Okay, so you took the test.
Got
your license.
Got my license, and obviously went to work for a brokerage. But because you have to sign up with a brokerage, or you can start your own brokerage.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother subject. Then I started selling houses part time. I was kind of carrying 2 or 3 different jobs. I got out of the radio business.
So you had multiple flows. You had hustle.
I had multiple flows. You have to have that.
That's one thing that now we got our license.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in the real estate game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them think they're going to go and get their license and millions of dollars are flowing.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at real estate and you think, oh, I want to be a realtor because I'm going to show $1 million houses and drive fancy cars. It's not as glorious Now, can you make a lot of money? Absolutely.
Well, we know you make a lot of money, but my question is, for all these young people who
Right.
come out and they really go, and I can speak for my son's viewpoint and
Mm-hmm.
vantage when he started and got his license in commercial brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
He thought he was going to come out and make millions of dollars, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh my God, this is I call.
Yeah,
call."
yeah.
What goes in to the behind the scenes that these people don't get to see?
Well, it is that. It's like, and I'll kind of touch on that, but it's like anything you do. If you go into business for yourself, or if you go to work for somebody, I don't care what it is. If you're selling insurance, or if you're selling watches or gadgets, or if you're, whatever you go into, it takes a while. You have to work hard. It
Mhm.
takes 3 years, I always say.
So 3 years is a golden timeline
It
in the
is.
real estate game.
It is in a lot of things that you do, because that first year you're getting into it, you're learning what not to do, you're making mistakes, you're hustling, you're getting out there networking, trying to let people know this is what you're doing. And then the second year you kind of start to figure it out, and you're still doing what you're doing. And then by year 3, if you're doing what you're doing and you're doing it well,
Mm-hmm.
then you start to get those referrals coming in.
How much repeat business would you say now, as a tenured real estate
Mhm.
agent, comes to play in this industry?
I would say probably 75% or more if my
So
business
it's all
is repeat
about
business.
networking
Absolutely.
and relationships.
Absolutely.
How much referrals do you get?
I'd say out of the referrals, like 80% or more of my 75-80% or more of my business is referrals
Has
or
been
repeat,
referrals.
or
Okay.
repeat customers.
So if
Easy.
let's just say I become an agent.
Yeah.
Let's say as an entrepreneur, that's going to be my side hustle.
Hmm.
How many calls a day would you say your first year you made that you didn't see much from?
Oh man, I mean, I can't. I'd say on average, I mean, you're calling 20, 30 people a day.
20, 30 people. So
Easy.
you went to work for an agency. Did
Mhm.
they give you leads, or were they just dry cold calls?
It's funny you asked that. There's a couple of different ways you can do it when you get into real estate. Like in radio, when I got in, they said, "Hey, welcome to the radio. Here's what you got." They slapped a phone book down and said, "Start making some calls and sell." So it was baptism by fire. They didn't have. I mean, they had some training, but in real estate, you can get leads from them. They can give them to you, but they're not given to you. You pretty much have to give up most of your commission, or a big split
A big split to the
on those
agency.
leads. That like
Gotcha.
here, Mickey. Here's somebody's ready to sell their house, or they're ready to buy a house, but you have
So
to
instead
split
of you getting
commission.
that 3%,
Yeah, it
because
might be one.
That's
It
a
depends.
good thing.
Depends on the brokerage, but because everything's set up differently. But the one that I signed up with, I did a lot of my own business. I wasn't
Mhm.
getting free leads, and I actually paid and purchased my own leads. I actually put my my face and my contact information on all the grocery carts in the zip code that I wanted to focus on in my local area.
So if I decided I wanted to build my business and I'm in a fast growing city,
Mm-hmm.
what would you share for my listeners that would be the best way to start that opening the door in the real estate game?
If you don't have a lot of money to put into buying leads, which most of the time when you start, you don't have a lot of money. At the time, I had 2 other jobs, which helped pay for the leads.
Paid for that side hustle.
I would say you got to get out there, go to networking events. Okay, I would do
Okay.
that 2 to 3 times a week. I signed up for Charlotte Young Professionals. I did there were several other clubs uptown that I signed up for.
And I think so you did the Charlotte Young Professionals, a couple other clubs. When you went to these events, because this is where I feel that is going to be pivoting for entrepreneurs who are listening,
Mhm.
what was your game plan? What did you think about when you went to these events? What was your goal in your mind, and how did you get to open that door to talk to these people?
Well, you have to get your mind ready. You got to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and just be willing to meet people, try to establish rapport, make connections, have your 60-second, what is it, the elevator speech?
Yeah.
Yep.
Or elevator sales. But
Yeah.
did you have at that time business cards?
How
did you?
I did. I got some really flashy business cards.
You did.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, imagine that. You made a big, large statement.
They
when you
had the
came in.
foil, and you could see through it, and it was all pretty. And I paid a lot of money for these business cards. I was so proud of these.
You were like, oh my God.
I'm a real estate agent. I was so excited.
Look at me. Look
Yeah.
at me. All right.
you
so
know, but
you went there and you handed out all these cards.
yes.
Okay.
Well, I got their contact information. That's the key.
Bingo. That's
the
what
key.
I was getting ready to say, because I find a lot of people say, here's my card, and then they walk away.
Well, it's funny because in the beginning I was so excited about those business cards, and I handed them out, and I had to learn that the hard way if I didn't get their information. And what's funny now, somebody the other day said, "Hey, can I have your business card?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to order them. I don't have any business cards, and I haven't had any for about a year now." But as a real estate agent, what I do, because a lot of people don't want to call real estate agents, right? They don't want to call a salesperson,
No.
right? So I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't have my business card, but let me get your phone number and email, and I'll send you that information."
Key piece. I want everybody to hear that you got their what?
Phone number and email.
It's pivoting. People say, well, let me get your number. And I'm like, no, get their number.
Yes.
Because why?
Because they're never going to call you.
They're always doing what?
They're always
busy.
out. Yeah, they're busy.
It's
they're
2
doing,
seconds in front of you, and then they forget, don't
yeah.
they?
Yeah, and don't abuse their information, but just stay in front of them and follow
front
up.
of 'em,
And, hey,
follow up.
and everybody, hey, you might not be ready to sell or buy a house, but do you know anybody?
And you don't mind opening that door and asking, do you?
You got to ask for the referrals.
So for people who are listening, I think this has been a real big piece I have to share. I am a big real estate fan, and I have a lot of real estate. And I met Mark how many years ago?
It's been maybe 6, 7 years.
6, 7
Feels
years.
like yesterday, though.
It
Feels like
does,
we just-
doesn't it? So Mark had a listing on West Boulevard, which at that time was not big and up and coming. It was,
Right.
It was still considered, are they selling drugs on the corner?
It
Some
was
people-
gentrifying.
It was, as they put it. So I said to Mark, I said, show me this house. He goes, okay. And we came up with so many creative ideas to sell this house. And that's the next segue that I'm opening up to you.
Okay.
Because I said, well, do you think we could do this, or do you think we could do that, or maybe rent for a couple of weeks so I can get a feel? And how much opening of creative thinking as a real estate agent did it take you? Because I think fresh ones are like, you buy, you close, that's the end. How innovative did you have to come in a lot of your deals to close them?
Yeah, some of them are pretty unique, and that one was unique. It was in a historical neighborhood, so I looked into some historical, like some of the arts and magazines.
The house was registered in the historic deeds.
Yes.
So there were a lot of things that we had to meet the criteria, but also I wanted to get in the house, and because nobody lived in it. The guy was out of state.
Yep.
So I rented it while I did the renovations.
Yes, we did.
And you said to me, I said, listen, I want this taken off the price because I had to renovate it because it didn't meet the criteria.
Yes,
and we got it all done.
We negotiated it, and
We
you're
did.
a tough negotiator, Mickey.
But wait, I wouldn't have had the ability to negotiate had you not said, well,
That's
let's
right.
think outside the box.
That's right.
So that's my next segue for a lot of these agents when they come. How much diversity in thinking and creativity does it take as an agent to necessarily close a deal?
You've got to think about all those different things, and the way, and that's what I love about the way you put things and the way that you negotiate is you think about ideas like, what if we did this?
But that took you to also communicate and convey that message to the seller.
Correct. Oh, these windows are all broken. It's a historical district. It wasn't like you could just replace them with vinyl windows. We had to get creative.
We had to get creative to meet the criteria. So here's another instance that I think for a lot of agents they don't think about. What happens if you have a difficult seller, you've got a difficult buyer, and two strong personalities, you become the referee.
Ooh, yes.
So, that's the other creative piece that I think needs to come into this podcast. Share what it takes for you, because you get emotions come in.
Oh, yeah.
Attachments come in. What does it take for you to cultivate that craft as a real estate agent?
Well, it's a good question. I think you have to have the ability to handle different personalities, and it's an emotional sell for most people because that's their biggest asset, their house, right?
Or
And
they raised their kids, or
yeah,
maybe
there's
their
a
mama
lot.
owned it and they died in the house.
Yeah, there's
or
all kinds of reasons.
all
So
these things.
the best thing I always tell agents that always play nice with the other real estate agent. Okay, buyers and sellers are going to come and go. Clients are going to come and go. But when you're in the industry, right, whatever industry you're in, I don't care what industry it is, but I feel like especially with real estate, you got to play nice. with the other agent because you're going to have to do business with them potentially again down the road. And if you burn a bridge,
that bridge is hard
that-
to walk
that-
across, isn't it?
there's been times and I'm not trying to brag on myself, but I've been at closing tables before when this was back when the buyers and the sellers and all the agents would sit together. There's new laws that make everybody separate for privacy reasons and
Sure.
financial stuff. But when we all used to sit together, this was in a tough market. They took my buyer's offer, and we were all sitting at the table. And the sellers, who I didn't talk to because they had their own real estate agent, said, your offer, yours wasn't the best offer, but our broker, who I knew, said that we should take this because they said Mark Mcklaskey will get the deals done, and it will happen.
And it closed.
And it closed. And it was because I had done deals, and we had difficult deals, but we got through it, and I had a relationship.
You just hit the key as an entrepreneur. What was it?
I had a relationship with that other agent.
Very key piece. I've had so many customers say to me, I want to be your real estate agent. And I said, well, here's the thing for me. I can do business with a lot of people, and I can be very malleable and be, like you, very understanding. But when it comes to a purchase, that relationship is a key piece, that they understand how you're going to navigate in the negotiations.
Without a doubt.
And you, by far, have shared a wealth of knowledge to a lot of people of what it takes, because you've had to deal with a lot of difficult negotiating, and that takes a skill set.
Yes.
And I want you to talk about that real quick for a minute,
Okay.
because I think people become an agent and they think, well, you're going to put an offer, you're going to buy it, and that's the end of it. It's usually not.
It's not that easy. It's sales is not, and you don't have to be a good salesperson, but when it comes down to it, it really is about relationships, or just whatever the situation is. Some people may I've seen people get to where they're like, okay, I don't want to buy that house because it's got that ugly blue door. Okay, well, what happened if we just paint that door a different color?
So you suggested a thought.
I'm going to get my painter over there, and we're going to paint that pink door, green or whatever.
Whatever color they
And
like.
get it, and you saw what it cost me, a couple $100.
You closed a deal.
But
for
I get the buyer happy.
30,000.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah,
Whatever it costs you.
Yeah.
Because
Hey,
I've seen you tell me, oh, Mickey, I had to go, and the lady was like, the house is dirty. You're like, I'll pay for a cleaner.
I'll get it clean.
The
for you.
landscape doesn't look good. I'll pay for a landscaper. And I'm like, why do you do all that work? And what was your response to
Well,
me?
it's a service, and I want to be able to, get past whatever it is, so that I can, for me to get that
Close
commission
it.
to close it. I don't make any money if I don't sell it.
Oh, my word. We don't make any money. That has been a big one. Let me ask you something. In your whole time, and you've been an agent now how long?
Since 2009, so 12, 13 years.
So tell me a little bit about the firm you finally settled into, and what was the deciding factor to be where you're at now?
Well, I'll answer it the way I feel like I need to answer it, because I was in corporate America, right? When I worked in the radio and television business, I was in corporate America, but I just didn't feel like I was cut out to climb that corporate ladder. And when I decided to go into business for myself, doing real estate, I wanted to go with a firm or a brokerage that was kind of not a corporate structured. Okay, for me, I wanted them to just let me do my thing.
That's why you wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I didn't want to have a company that would say, all right, you got to check in every Monday for a sales meeting, and I want to know what you did, because I came out of that corporate structure, and I didn't want that. So I identified with a firm that was just like, hey, Mark, welcome aboard. If you sell something, you sell something. If you don't, you don't. And I thrived.
And you loved that.
I did. But it's not for everybody. Some people may want to have that structure where, so it depends on who you are and what, but you got to find what fits for you so that you can thrive.
So you could come through.
Yeah.
Share, how many people work at your
I
firm
fit
now?
about 700 or 800, something like that.
700 or 800. That's a big firm.
Yeah, well, that's across our state and stuff.
How
like
many
that.
people work directly under you?
Well, I don't have anybody formally under me, but I do have about 15 agents that I help with leads, generating
So
leads
you help
for.
kind of mentor them.
Yeah.
Would you say, for the audience, and I know it puts you in a tough spot, what was the toughest deal you ever had to do?
Oh.
I mean, where at the end of it, you were like, you questioned being a realtor.
There's
Don't have to say a name, but
no. There's been a couple of very challenging ones. Can I tell you a funny one?
Sure.
That was,
Let's hear it.
All right, and I won't cuss because I know this is I won't use any curse.
Well, we
words.
might have somebody in here, but
Okay.
I swear to God, I hear Gary Vaynerchuk do it. I hear Grant do it. I even hear Ed Milet say it once in a while.
Well, I'll keep it clean. But I had this buyer that wanted to go look at foreclosures and short sales because they wanted a deal, right? Nobody ever comes up to you and says, "Hey, help me buy a house so I can lose money on it." Everybody says, "I want a deal."
I want a deal.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
So she wanted to go. It was an older lady. She wanted to come and look at and I say older because I just knew she didn't have the wherewithal to do a bunch of remodeling. She wanted a turnkey property, but she also wanted a deal, so she wanted to see foreclosures. And so I said, "Listen, that's going to be
Foreclosure usually means work.
as is."
There you go.
The bank's selling it, or whoever's got they're going to sell it at maybe a decent price, but the price might not be that good if you've got to go in there and do a bunch of work.
Right.
So I told this person, I said, "Listen, it's not that easy getting these foreclosures. They're as is, and whatever's there is there." Well, this was back in the crash when the crash happened in 09
yeah.
or 10.
Yeah.
And so we went into the house, and we walk in, we take a left, take a right, and whoever had moved out of that house before they moved out, they defecated on the formal dining room floor.
Okay. So
And
they were mad.
we walked into that, and I said, "Remember what I told you about foreclosures? It's as is. So if you buy this, that poop conveys the property. That's your poop now."
What'd she say?
She said, "I don't think I want to buy a foreclosure anymore." But I think I got her talked into buying it. But that was
Did
a
she
tough
buy it?
one. Yeah,
But that was a tough one because
because
she had
there
to
was
look at
there
it.
was poop on the floor.
What was the best one you've ever had?
Oh, the best ones we have, which you forget about because it's the easy ones, is you go,
Turnkey.
yeah, they call you up, "Hey, we want to go out," and I had this happen last month. Somebody called me up, said, "Hey, I want to go look at this $600,000 house," and boom, we wrote the offer, had it under contract, no problem. So
What's the biggest deal you ever had?
a $2.5 million. Yeah.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
$2.5 million. That had to be a monster house.
It was a monster house.
Monster house. Monster house. But
Big
was
one,
it an easy
12,000 square feet or something. It was, yeah.
It was a big house.
Yeah.
On the lake.
On the lake.
On the lake.
Yep.
Hey, so for my audience, just so you know, Mark does all my property, and that $2.5 million deal was mine. And I worked real hard with Mark to get that deal done.
I missed that house though. That was
I know, but here's the thing. That's why I opened this door, and you're going to know why now. I opened the door was because that property was a hard property for anybody to have sold. But I think what sold it was your marketing. You ran an absolutely beautiful video. You did an advertising in a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So share with them on these agents what goes into selling a premier property.
Yeah, it's not that easy, and I didn't want to say that was the hardest property because I didn't want to.
You
didn't want to say it was
me.
one of your
Hey,
properties.
thanks, real nice. I already knew that, but the reason I did that is I think agents think, well, I list it in the MLS and it's going to sell, and you really did an amazing presentation. So,
well, thank you.
Share about those steps for me.
Yeah, there is a lot that goes into those premier properties. I mean, you've got to spend money up front to place it in luxury magazines, search engine optimizations. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But basically, you got to really have a game plan. And I told a lot of the newer agents that I work with that I don't necessarily want to focus on multi-million-dollar properties because they are harder to sell. Yeah, you think, oh man, you get that big fat commission. But when I started my broker, when I started my business, I kind of focused on that lower, not the lowest price point, but that middle ground. That at the time, $250,000 to $350,000.
Yeah.
But now that doesn't buy as much these days.
Not in Charlotte, North
Not
Carolina.
in Charlotte
doesn't.
anymore.
No.
So,
no.
but yeah, so it was a lot of. But you know what? It was also a lot of with your property was reaching out to people that I knew in my network that had the capacity to purchase a luxury property like that, and reaching out to those agents that I had relationships with to say, hey, FYI,
I'm
here's
listing this property.
Yeah.
So, video, how important is it?
Oh, that's crucial.
How is it staged?
That's important. You have to have it staged right.
What would you say if an agent said, I've got this gorgeous house, but it doesn't really show well? Doesn't that come in from your videographer? Because I remember you saying to me, I need this person to shoot this house because this is what they're going to showcase.
Yeah, and that's right. It's a process. I mean, I always have my stager come in, which you have excellent taste. So there wasn't a lot of staging that needed to be done with your particular property.
Correct.
But I have the stagers go in. I have the photographers. So what I do, I'm the real estate agent. I negotiate the deal. I sell it, but I'm not a stager.
No,
I'm
but
not a
you know your
photographer.
lane. But
I have the experts in all those spots.
places.
to
One
do it.
thing I loved, and I hope the listeners that decide if they want to be an entrepreneur and want to be a real estate agent for all these nuggets you shared, the guy even came in and did drone work
Yes,
to showcase it.
drone, and then there's this technology called Matterport, which is really cool. It's a 3D walkthrough of the house, and there's so many people. I don't know, if you're in a market where people are relocating to that market, if you're in that kind of a city, we have a lot of people in Charlotte that move here from out of state.
Yep.
I have been told at the closing table, hey, thank you for putting that Matterport on there because we were able to, we've never seen the house, but we felt like we have because we walked through that house with your 3D walkthrough.
Yes. With the house that we listed together, Mark had a client from Laguna Beach, I think.
Yes.
And that is how they viewed my home.
Yes.
From California.
California.
So I think those are key pieces for people who want to go into this industry as an agent, how you showcase it, how you network it, how you present it. Because I think the reason my property escalated at a large value was how you marketed it.
That and how you improved it. But yeah, marketing is the key part. I mean,
Key
it was
piece.
because when it previously was marketed, I would say it was not quite done as nicely.
No, well, I think marketing plays a factor as well as, like you said, all the relationships that you cultivated. Somebody came in that you had already had a relationship with.
It comes back to the relationships.
Networking. What would you say is your other side hustle? Because you've got a lot of hustles, and I know my audience needs to know this. You flip some houses, don't you?
Well, yeah, and it's kind of along the same lines of real estate. So I know the game. I know what it takes. And it's taken me this long, 10 years, to save up enough money to be able to kind of do them on my own now. And
you do a lot of them, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Do you partner with some of your clients?
Sometimes I do, yes, because sometimes I do some JVs.
So if you had something to give to anybody wanting to be in the real estate industry, what would be the most important piece that you hope they gain from today's episode?
That you've got to be ready to work hard and work on relationships and networking in order to build your business.
All right. Now, for all that are listening, you want to find Mark Mcklaskey, tell them how we find you.
Hey, you can Google my name, and hopefully it won't bring up a bunch of bad stuff.
I know, but I don't even know how to spell your last name.
I know it. I know.
So
I need to probably get a stage name.
Name, but you could, like Marky Mark, but it's Mark Mcklaskey.
Yes.
So if they want to find you, how do we find you?
So I can give out my cell phone and my email.
There you go.
So my cell phone is 704-604-5952. Call or text. That's on all my signs. Call or text. Call or text.
You know what? He does not have a timeline because I'm a bad girl. I call late at night.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw this house, and he's like, voicemail.
No, I don't do that to you. But that is something as a real estate agent, a lot of times
that's
you get in.
Why I brought it up.
You think, oh, I don't have to work for a 9 to 5, but you got to be on call. You got to watch that phone because you might miss a lead. You might miss a text.
And somebody
that's
calls
money.
When they're thinking about it.
That's money.
That's money. Every time you hit end, what did you just possibly lose?
Possibly lost a big commission. There
you go. What's the email, Mark?
Mark, M-A-R-K, and my last name is Mcklaskey, so it's MCCLASKEY @gmail.com.
What firm are you with?
I am with Wilkinson ERA.
You are, and that's a great thing. I hope everybody that listened to our episode and had an opportunity to be an entrepreneur, be in the real estate space, because Mark is at the top of the game, utilize those little nuggets that he got. And if you got something from it today, reach out. You're on Facebook, aren't you?
Absolutely. If you have any questions or want to, how did you do it when you got started? What different branding things did you do?
Yeah.
I'd be glad to help out with any of that.
You list, how many properties do you list a year?
I do about 50 to 60.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you sell a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do that all. That's all my own.
That's just
what
Mark.
I do. Yeah.
Well, That's what we love about you, Mark. Energy is everything. Energy is the universe. Hey, thanks for taking the time to listen to our podcast, get to know Mark Mcklaskey, one of the best real estate agents in the Carolinas, and honestly, really, truly a great friend. I'm really thrilled and had the opportunity to do business, had a personal relationship, and who knows, maybe we'll go to a casino sometime.
Let's do it.
Let's
go
do
win.
it. Hey, thanks for listening. Make it a wonderful Thursday and make it a great week. And remember, time is money, money is time. Make sure you use your time wisely. Make it a great day. Woo! We did it. How'd we sound? Did you like us? Aren't we good? Oh, did you? We sounded good, didn't we?
Hey, I thought that was fun.
Publish it. You'll be like, oh my God. I'll tag you. You're not on Instagram?
No, I don't think I have. I need to set one of those up.
Mark, you have to have Instagram. A lot of people don't do Facebook.
I'm gonna, yeah, because it's